In a previous video, I mentioned that both Martin Luther King and Mark Twain talked about the big problem with affecting social change not being overt assholes like the Detroit Pride Nazis, but rather who MLK called white moderates during segregation. Twain, speaking before emancipation was a popular idea, called this phenomenon the lie of silent assertion, that there wasn't anything going on in which humane and intelligent people were interested. This is a call to action for us queer folk to call out Nazi dog whistling when we see it, and also for our straight allies to show their support. It's tempting to think the cautionary tale of MLK's moderates or Twain's lie of silent assertion ends with our own individual actions. But as nice as Cody's truck is, we can't stop there. Grayson Fritz and many of the other NAFB pastors who call for LGBT genocide publish all their sermons on YouTube. And there's also a lot more subtle harm hosted by YouTube. Last month, Vox reporter Carlos Maza got sick of shit from Blaze TV personality Steven Crowder, and like the queers at Stonewall, he finally fought back.
You're being given a free pass as a crappy writer because you're gay.
It's code for rape, Mr. Queer eating chips on the Vox channel. Chip, 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 but you can eat just one. Like dicks.
Maza has been doxxed by Crowder's fanboys and all around been made to feel pretty unsafe by YouTube's refusal to enforce its own rules against harassment.
In a viral tweet thread, Maza complained to YouTube about this harassment.
Two gay guys sitting there eating a banana, we get the symbolism there.
YouTube responded to Maza by saying that while it found Crowder's language hurtful, he did not violate its policies.
Oh, okay, so they are just an angry little queer.
YouTube's definition of bullying that they themselves offered in this very same document is behavior intended to humiliate someone else. It also violates their rules against hate speech, which include using stereotypes that incite or promote hatred based on any of the attributes noted above, one of which is sexual orientation. This can take the form of speech, text, or imagery promoting these stereotypes or treating them as factual.
I wonder how many lispy, angry sprites and Vox sashay across your screen and try and tell you otherwise.
The site decided to remove ads from Crowder's channel. YouTube already limits monetization on videos about hot button issues that aren't deemed brand safe.
Even his hand movement and fast motion is gay. Now we're here with the short-haired angry lesbian on Skype.
To make this punishment even weaker, YouTube said it would re-monetize his channel if he removed that link.
The punishment that YouTube devised for bigotry against LGBTQ people was to treat the bigot like LGBTQ people, except less severely. They made the play button a rainbow. Our heroes.
Crowder's defense of his content is, "I'm just a comedian, man." Hey, great to meet you, Steve. From one comedian to another, you suck! Your joke writing is the comedy equivalent of this picture of escalators in front of a gym. How lazy do you have to be that the punchlines of your jokes continue to be, "Ooh, he's gay," and repeating tired stereotypes? Did you not graduate high school? Do you have that obscure medical condition that ages you, so you have the body of a 20-something, but you're actually 8 years old? You're being given a pass for being a shitty writer because you pander to conservatives. You don't have to build a rocket to Uranus to see why a greedy corporation like YouTube makes this kind of decision. In the internet or information age, this is the main problem with MLK's moderates or Twain's lie of silent assertion. Not so much individual people turning a blind eye, but large corporations choosing not to enforce their own harassment rules because it gets them advertising dollars. Hey, it's not YouTube employees who are harassing gay people. I mean, we're not encouraging that, but the content makes us money, so why should we enforce our own rules? You know what they say, rules are made to be broken. We all know YouTube is motivated by profit, but what a lot of us don't realize is how Nazis can and do exploit that. In response to the backlash from their handling of Crowder, YouTube promised to improve the enforcement of their policies, a task they seem to have lazily handed to an algorithm, which got right to work, demonetizing a bunch of anti-Nazi channels. Mostly. YouTube has removed a few extreme neo-Nazi channels, but there are two other problems. First, as much as rational centrists say YouTube is just following profit, this isn't the first time that we've caught systemic anti-LGBT bias on YouTube's platform. Last year, their algorithm was demonetizing transgender topic videos while allowing anti-LGBT ads to play on the channels of queer creators. YouTube executives may not have intended the latter problem. It may have been a quirk of their algorithm, but they still denied it while allowing it to happen. And the second point may help to explain how their algorithm arrived at that bias. As I mentioned in a previous video, most of today's Nazis use dog whistles to hide in plain sight. Dog whistles are like the fine print of Nazi messaging. It's like the terms of service on some app you use. You don't read through the thousands of pages of legalese. You just click agree to create your account, and then Facebook is telling Russian hackers you're Jewish and offering them ways to advertise to people interested in the phrase, "Hitler did nothing wrong." But nobody reads the terms, so only Facebook employees and a handful of policy nerds know what power you've handed over to them. It's the same way with Nazi dog whistles. You don't have to be a Nazi to repeat the Great Replacement conspiracy theory. So with that in mind, how does dog whistling actually work? You might not know about 4chan, a website that allows absolutely anyone to post comments anonymously. For Nazis, being able to say whatever hateful thing they want in public without being personally identified is a consequence-free goldmine. So they use 4chan as a research lab for Nazi dog whistling memes. When an idea is well received by other Nazis on 4chan and it's apparent the public won't immediately recognize it as a Nazi meme, they roll it out to other places where you and I are, like Twitter, YouTube, and even offline. They did this with the OK hand sign, the flag of Kekistan, and the Honkler and Clown World meme that Jim referenced. It's how they stay ahead of people like the Southern Poverty Law Center who try to keep tabs on them and hold them accountable. I'll put a link to donate to the SPLC in the description. It's, you know, this is sounding a little dry, maybe a little confusing. What's a good metaphor? Oh, drugs! There's a lot of support for legalizing marijuana, so people talk about it openly now, but it wasn't always that way. Throughout the war on drugs, people who wanted to get high kept changing the lingo to throw off the cops. You can't say Mary Jane anymore, the cops are onto that. Now you have to say reefer, then spliff, then weed, then chronic. When we're talking about modern Nazis or the alt-right, they're not worried about cops. They're worried about the censors on social media platforms like Twitter and YouTube. Here's an easy example. When you're composing a tweet, there's a button to include a GIF. If you search for Hitler, Nazi, or swastika, you don't get any results. But a quick search for honk honk produces that Honkler Clown World meme as the first result. Because they filter out obvious Nazi symbols, but they don't do the work to know who created the Clown World meme. It's like people who take their family for photos in Uranus. All YouTube sees is the face, because the rest of them is buried to the neck in a wild animal's asshole. So when Nazis post their videos brimming with alt-right dog whistles, YouTube doesn't bat an eye because they don't verbally say Nazi. But those of us who want to call them out for dog whistles have to say it out loud. To expose the Nazis, we have to say Nazi, and that gets us immediately demonetized while the Nazis stroll merrily along collecting ad revenue they can use for their Broadway musicals. I know